hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. If you are new, I am Lucy. Just caught sight of myself in the viewfinder and realised that very white on white today. I really can't be bothered to go and get changed, so you're gonna have to accept my apologies for the white on white on white. I'm also looking very tan for me. Can you tell it's lockdown and we're having a heat wave? I don't think I've been this brown since I went on honeymoon. Anyway, that is beside the point. Today I wanted to do a video about Couch to 5k. I did the 9-week Couch to 5k program and I probably started it about 12 to 13 weeks ago now. So I graduated from the program 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I'm going to be honest, nobody is more surprised than me about the fact that A, I started running, B, I carried on running, C, I graduated from the Couch to 5k program and then carried on running. Lots of people will say, I haven't run since school. I didn't even run at school. I would do anything to get out of cross country and athletics. So I didn't used to do cross country. I used to walk it, used to refuse to run it. When we had athletics in the summer, I actually petitioned my dance teacher to let us start a cheerleading team just to get me out of sports day athletics. This is how committed I was to not ever having to run. So like I say, when I say the words nobody is more surprised than me, I mean it. I have always sworn my entire life that I cannot run, do not run, will not run, I'm not able to run, and now I run. You live and you learn, I guess. But every single time that I mention Couch to 5k or anything to do with it on my Instagram, I get messages from people asking about it, talking about where they are in the program, all these sorts of things. So I put a little list together of things that I wish I'd known when I started and as I went through the program, in hopes that it might be helpful to anybody. I found lots of amazing kind of running type videos, but they were all from people that were much more experienced runners, and I feel like I needed to hear from people who really weren't experienced runners and who were going along at the same time as me. So hopefully I can be that for you. So without further ado, here are my 10 things I wish I had known about Couch to 5k. The first one is trust the program. It will get you there. I definitely had my doubts. I definitely made the mistake of looking ahead to see what the runs were going to be like in weeks to come, and panicked. Anybody that has done Couch to 5k will know the famous week 5 run 3. If you aren't familiar with the Couch to 5k app, it basically builds up a series of running, walking, and as you go along, you run more and you walk less. And then you get to the end of week 5 and all of a sudden, having done this series of running and walking, it sends you out for a 20-minute run. And it's really scary because you just don't think you're going to do it. What I will say is just trust it. I know it feels crazy when you look ahead to weeks ahead and you just think, I'm not going to be able to do that. Sometimes you look one run ahead and go, I'm not going to be able to do that. But trust it, because I followed the program to the letter and it got me there. By magic, by hook or by crook, it got me there. It says all the way through the program, don't be afraid to repeat. So if you find that you fail a run, I don't like the word fail, I think as long as you've gone out and run, you're better than sitting at home. Sitting at home is the fail. But if you do fail a run, just redo that run and keep redoing that run until you can get through the run and then move on, which is what I said all along I was going to do. I actually didn't fail any runs and I carried on through the whole program, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with having to stop where you are and carry on with that particular run before you proceed. Number 2 is don't overthink your breathing, and this is something I really struggled with in particularly the first 2 weeks. I would say by week 3 I'd nailed it, but even now if I start thinking too much about my breathing, I like panic and I lose my breath again. So in those initial runs I was so out of breath, like I genuinely thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe. I physically couldn't seem to get enough oxygen in to keep powering through. And I think the reason it was bad in the first weeks is because I was panicking and I think I was overthinking and I felt like I couldn't breathe, and that made the whole situation worse. I found that as it went on, actually when I didn't think about how I was breathing, I got into a much more natural pace with my breathing. Some people will tell you that you should breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. That doesn't work for me. I am a mouth breather when I run. I basically can't breathe through my nose because I suffer from hay fever and I go out for a run and I'm so snotty that I can't breathe through my nose anyway. And I also don't feel like I get enough air in when I breathe through my nose. So don't overthink it, don't panic about it. Try not to think too much about breathing. The only time that I try to think about breathing is if I feel like I've got a stitch coming, because I find that if I've got a stitch coming, taking some really deep breaths, or as deep as you possibly can when you're running, does help. But yeah, try not to overthink the breathing, particularly in those first few weeks. It does come, you stop having to think about it somewhere along the line. Like I said, for me it was about week 3, but it could be earlier or later for different people. Just don't overthink it because it makes it worse. Number 3, let me introduce you to something, if you haven't already heard of it, called the Toxic 10. I didn't know about the Toxic 10 to begin with, and once I found out what it was like a lightning bolt from the blue for me. Toxic 10 is a well-known thing apparently, so I hear, in running circles, and it is basically that the first 10 minutes of your run suck. They hurt, it's not particularly fun, you kind of want to give up. They're hard work. And somebody that I was reading likened it to when you have an old car on a cold day, they just take a little bit longer to get going. And once they've warmed up and the engine's been going for a little while, they drive much more smoothly. And that is exactly what running is like for me. For the first 10 minutes, it just feels hard, and normally in the first 5 to 7 minutes I feel like I want to quit every single time. It's just not very fun, and it takes a little while for your breathing to regulate, for your pace to kind of level out, and it's just hard. And then you suddenly realise once you've got past this 10-minute mark that you've almost gone into muscle memory, and your legs just keep going and your breathing, and you then feel like you could keep going for a lot longer. But you just have to get through that 10 minutes, and it is tough. For me, one way that I counter it is I do a warm-up walk to begin with, and what I try and do is I try and power walk as fast as possible, because I feel like to a certain degree that helps cut down that Toxic 10. I'm not sure that it works. I feel like maybe I absorb some of that 10 minutes into the warm-up, which means that the Toxic 10 bit kicks out again earlier in my run. Doesn't always work. Sometimes I'm at like minute 15 and I still feel like it sucks. But you do just have to power through it, and know that nearly every single runner I've spoken to have said that Toxic 10 is a thing, and just you have to get through it, and once you get through it, it does get easier. Kind of feeding in from that one, number 4 would be to try and plan your route ahead of time. I plan my routes around the fact that I don't like Toxic 10, and if I have a really hard bit in the first 5 to 10 minutes of my run, I will want to quit more. I don't quit, that's not in my nature. I'm not a quitty type person, but I know that I need to have my route mapped out so that it works for me. So I tend to try and get uphill in my warm-up walk so that I can do flat running during my Toxic 10, and then I try and build the downhill bit into the end of my run, because obviously you get more tired as you go along. Obviously that depends on where you live. I live near a river, so for me I have hills, not steep hills because I'm in East Anglia, but I do have hills to contend with one way or another. But there would be nothing worse for me than going downhill towards the river first and then having to come back uphill again. So you kind of, it just pays to kind of play around with your route. Another thing I would say while you're doing Couch to 5K is that the mileage gradually increases as you go on. So initially you actually don't go very far, and then it gradually builds up. So what I did is I tried to stick with the same route, and I just added a little bit on, so I went slightly further each time. There's a little ding 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 bell that goes halfway through, so you know if you hear the ding 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 that you need to start heading not backwards, you need to start heading back home. But yeah, definitely try and think about your route, particularly if you're not kind of going out to a running track or a country park or a trail or something. If you're having to do sort of more road running, which is what I do, like my local area, it does pay to have a think about what your route is going to be so that you've got uphills and downhills in the right places. Number 5 is to find a good distraction. There are definitely different camps with running. There are the music people. I'm a music person. I like to have kind of good powerful tunes in my ears, and I find that keeps me going. Some people really fall into the podcast route. I actually did really like going for a run with a podcast on. I found it was much more distracting than music, and I felt like the run went faster, but it did affect my pace and I was slower. So I clearly run faster to music, but it goes faster with a podcast. And then you have the people that just don't like to listen to anything and they like to listen to their surroundings. I don't think I could be that person. I think I'd probably get bored, but maybe I will give it a try at some point. Basically, you know you best, so you know what you're going to find more entertaining. Like I said, I have played around with music and podcasts, and I probably will continue to vary them up, but I definitely lean more towards music. But you know what's going to work for you. So find something that's a good distraction, because I find that if I've got good tunes going in my head, I'll be listening to the tunes and kind of singing along in my head rather than thinking about the fact that my feet feel really heavy and I don't really want to run any further. I just find anything that's going to make it go a bit faster and make you not think about how tired you are is going to be a massive positive. My next one, I feel like it's a bit of an overlooked one, but has been a big one for me, and that is to get good socks. If you follow any kind of running blogs or chats or groups or anything, people talk a lot about the trainers, and I have absolutely no doubt that getting good trainers can make a big difference. I probably still need to invest in some proper trainers. I have running appropriate trainers, but they're probably not the best running trainers. I probably do need to buy some more, but they're doing me okay, so I'm carrying on for now. But socks makes a really big difference. And if you can get yourself some running socks, it definitely helps. I bought one of my pairs of running socks just as a little prop really. These are like trainer running socks, but they basically have a lot more kind of cushioniness around the toes and around the kind of arches of the feet. They're a bit more kind of tight, I always find, when you put them on, but I guess they're more sort of supportive of your foot. Yeah, I would definitely recommend trying to invest in some running socks. Obviously, running trainers are useful too, but some running socks are really going to help. Number 7 is more of a kind of thing that I have found and learned, and that is, for me, definitely, it is more of a mental thing than a physical thing. And often the hardest bit of my run is getting my butt out of bed and in my running gear and out the door than the actual run. I can often go out in the wrong mindset and it makes the whole run hard, but if I go out in the right mindset, it can be so much fun. I actually started running as a mental thing because I wanted some me time and some headspace and some fresh air and some exercise, basically, for the endorphins and the good chemicals that kick off when you do a bit of exercise. I did it more as a mental thing than a physical thing, and I think that probably helped because I was more aware of the mental side of it going into it. I didn't go into it focusing on wanting to be a really fast runner or wanting to achieve anything in particular running wise. I went into it wanting headspace, and I think that helped because it meant I looked at my runs as a gift to myself, like some time, some space, some quiet, that kind of thing. But it definitely is a mental hurdle, I think, and I think once you can get over the mental hurdle and get your bum out there, you've done more than half the battle, and it will be 100% worth it, because there are often points in my runs where I'm not enjoying it and I just want to go home, or I just want to walk, like I just don't want to run anymore. But the high when I get home and I've done it, I buzz for the rest of the day knowing I've been out and done it, is definitely worth the hard mental bit of getting out of bed in the first place, if that makes sense. Number 8 is to keep moving. When it's hard, keep moving. When you're tired, keep moving. Slow down, and if it's still hard, slow down some more, but keep moving. So for me, sometimes during Couch to 5K, there were points where I wasn't running. I wasn't even really jogging. I was just, I don't know, like, I wouldn't say I was power walking because I had the kind of motion of jogging, but I was so slow, but I kept that up. And that definitely helped for me with endurance as I kind of went through it. As the program goes on, you go from doing these walking and running stints to just doing longer runs without the walks. And as I got later on into the program, towards the bit where you go solely across to just running, I found that the walks made it harder because you get to a point where you're running and you've just got the momentum going. And as soon as you slow down, you're going to have to power that momentum back up again. And that is so much harder than just keeping going and slowing down. So if it's hard, and I know it's hard because my God, have I been there, I just slowed it down some more, but kept going. It's just 100% easier to keep going, even though it's slow, than it is to stop and then have to find the energy to get going again. Number 9, I feel like this should be shouted loud and it should be written all over the app when you sign up for it. Hardly anybody graduates Couch to 5K running 5K. The app should actually be called Couch to Running for 30 minutes, but that's just not as catchy, is it? It's just not. The idea of the app is that it will get you from not running to running continuously for 30 minutes. For some people, that is 5K. For a lot of people, it's not. I was just off the pace when I graduated, and I, on my graduation run, ran until I'd done 5K, and that was about 32 or 33 minutes. I actually can't remember. So I wasn't far off, but I wasn't quite there. I think lots of people get really caught up in the idea that they're not going to run 5K when they graduate. And for me, that didn't bother me. Like I said earlier, for me, it was more about just getting out and running, and I didn't massively have a target in mind in terms of distances and speeds and stuff. I just wanted to be able to run continuously for 30 minutes. So I was happy with that. The thing that I like most about running is that you're only really in competition with yourself. As long as you're getting out there, it's better than it was sitting on the sofa, and you will improve as you go along. If you stick with the program, it will help you improve vastly over what is a relatively short amount of time, so like 2 and a bit months. And my final one kind of comes in from that whole only really competing with yourself, and that is to track your runs. Tracking has been really useful for me just because I quite like to compare how I've done on previous runs with new runs. There are lots of different apps you can use. I use the Strava app, there is a Map My Run app, there is also a Nike running app, and also there are various different watches and stuff that track your apps. I use an Apple Watch, which has got like a built-in running app, but lots of people use Garmin or Fitbit. There are all sorts of different things out there that you can use to track. I just find it's really interesting because I can see how far I've gone and how fast I've gone and compare it with kind of previous runs, and see maybe on runs that I've found harder, I often find that I've maybe started out a little bit too fast and my pace was higher at the beginning, and then I've obviously flagged because I've used too much energy early on. Some of my better runs where I've had really consistent speed the whole way through, and then I find a little bit more in the tank at the end. I just find, because I'm a bit of a geek, that it's quite nice to be able to look at some of the statistics around my app. But I feel like this last point number 10, comes with 10B, which is don't sweat it. It doesn't matter. If your pace feels like it's a bit slow one day, who cares? Your pace is still faster than it would have been sat watching Netflix with a packet of crisps in your hand. And that's what it's about really. It's just about getting out and getting moving and having fun with it. As I said at the beginning, I am so far from being a natural runner, and it still surprises me that I get up every other day and I get my butt into gear and I go out for a run. It still surprises me that I enjoy it as much as I do. I don't always enjoy it, but sometimes I enjoy it, and I always enjoy the fact that I went when I come home. If you've got any questions or things you'd like to know, I'm always happy to answer them, so please stick them in the comments and let me know if you're going to give it a go, or if you have given it a go, or your experiences with Couch to 5K, and also if you've got any other tips that you think would be useful. Thanks for coming across and watching my video today. I hope it's been helpful or useful, and maybe you've learned something, or maybe it's just made you feel better about your own experiences. That's great too. I would love it if you'd subscribe so that you don't miss my next video. Thank you for coming and spending some of your time with me today, and I will see you again for another video really soon. Bye.